Hi guys, I'm Lourdes, and I'm really just sending this to friends and people that I know who take my yoga classes. So, um, welcome. This is a very weird time that we're in, and I decided not to teach my only public class that I teach on Sundays at Namaskar because I really didn't want to catch anything that, even if it's just a cold or a flu, that's not the coronavirus, this is just not the time to get sick. So I decided to do some video, and I'll be honest, I've thought about this for a while, but just felt really self-conscious. And so it's funny, the things that lead us to do something new. I just decided to do some yoga videos. And before we get started, I just want to share a little bit more about my yoga teaching. I've been teaching for 20 years now. I started out just teaching as a hobby, and I had a full-time job, and right around 9/11, I had actually just gone to part-time, and I was like, oh my God, like any job that I wanted, no one was hiring, and that was so weird. So again, weird times lead us to do very interesting things. And so at that time, I became a full-time yoga teacher more out of just the situation, and I never stopped. So here I am, almost 20 years later, 20 years teaching, but almost 20 years full-time. And it's just been really a fabulous life experience. So I thought I'd just share some really short, what I think is short-ish videos, about 20 minutes each. So if you're new to yoga, you can just kind of start and feel what yoga is doing for your body and not feel like, oh my God, I have to do this for an hour and a half, which is what I'm used to teaching. And secondly, if you want to do a longer practice, you can just watch multiple videos, and so it works for you. And just to dispel a few myths about yoga, for those of you who are just starting or new to yoga or feeling like you might just be needing to do something like yoga, you don't even need anything special. You don't have to wear special clothes. I mean, back when I started, I used, just sweats and t-shirts from the Gap. Like, it was nothing special. So don't feel like, oh, I need special equipment. You don't even need a mat. I mean, you could use a mat and it prevents from some sticking, but some of the stuff that we're going to do today, you won't even need it. So just comfortable clothing, comfortable space, and breath. And another thing that I think about yoga is it's not about the poses that we do in the body. It is and it's not. Some people do really cool, like really fancy poses and things like that, and fast, and then they do hot yoga. Really, like what I teach is really about doing yoga to support a life that is so strong and connected and purposeful and meaningful and impactful. A lot of the people that I teach are people who are up to really big things, and so they need a practice that is not overwhelming, that really helps them feel their best, and supports like this inner life that needs to show up, that needs to breathe deeply, that needs to have like the ability to sustain long days and intensity. So that's what my yoga practice has always been about, and what I like to teach to people. So you don't need anything special, you just need to show up and really just practice what feels good. Like, that's kind of the meter that you need to find. And that's the other thing, is sometimes we don't have a sense of what feels good, so just take some time. We just do what we see a lot of times, and just out of habit. So it's really going to take some listening in and feeling what feels good for you. I often use this system, like on a scale of 1 to 10, like feel like you're at about a 5 or a 6 or a 7, where you're actually feeling something. So you're not at a 1 or 2, and you're not at a 10, where it's like, oh, this is so hard, I can't stand it. Like something in a 5, 6, 7 range feels really good. And then, yeah, I'll remind you to breathe. I have a fire going here, and that might pop or sound or whatever, but really just listen to my voice. I will start to do some of the yoga poses, but I might just talk you through it. The way that I have always taught is that I don't do the practice while I'm teaching. I teach through my words and through my touch. And so I'll continue to do that. And yeah, so we'll just begin. Go ahead and just take a comfortable seat. I'm just sitting cross-legged. If that's not comfortable, sit in a chair, sit on your couch, and just find a place that feels comfortable just to ground yourself, and just close your eyes or soften your gaze, or you can look at me. It doesn't really matter. It's really more about like being present to you. So I'm going to close my eyes. That's kind of where I start when I show up to teach, and just to let yourself focus in on your breathing. And what that means is like even tune in that you're breathing. Sometimes where our minds are moving and thinking and in the past and oh my gosh, I didn't do that, and in the future, oh I have to go do that. Getting present to your breath is really easy and not easy to do because you have to practice doing that. It's not always, we think we know we're breathing, but sometimes we're breathing really shallow, sometimes we're not breathing. So just take some time, listen to yourself breathe. As you listen to yourself breathe, notice if your breath is as deep as can be. On the inhalation, like you actually feel like you're expanding or filling up a balloon in your body, your lungs, your abdomen will expand when you breathe deeply. And then notice what it feels like to really exhale and empty out. And when I describe, you can have your hands on either side of your ribs, and then just guide yourself to just gently use the muscles. You can feel your hands kind of compress in towards the center. Just keep your eyes soft or closed and just tune into your breathing. And then we'll just do a few breathing exercises for now. And when I say exercises, it's not like anything strict. But just go ahead and inhale deeply and exhale out your mouth like a sigh. So you just hear your exhalation. And as you hear your exhalation, just notice again if it's as deep and emptying as can be. Just start to let the exhalation be less audible, but still deep. So that can be out the nose or out the mouth. But just notice how we really like move the exhalation to get longer and deeper. Notice your inhalation feels really smooth and like you're turning on a valve and just letting your breath flow into your body in a very deep and smooth way. Start to sit up tall in a way that drops the shoulders away from the ears. Ground down through the sit bones, and just those parts of you that, anchor into your seat. Notice if it's even between left and right. And then really grow up tall through the crown of the head. I visualize it like as though there's a golden thread being pulled through the crown of the head, and that lengthens your spine. And again, just let it feel really easy to breathe. Like we're not trying to breathe, we're just being aware of the breath. And being aware of the breath means that you're alive and that your life is meaningful. And for all of us, like, our life is about something. Like, we're not just living just to get to the next moment. We're really usually up to something interesting or big or meaningful to us. It could be your kids, it could be your job, it could just be a project that you're working on. But life really fuels our actions. Breath fuels our life. So just being in touch with our breath is deep work. And when you find yourself in times of either upset or overwhelmed, just tune into your breath. So we're going to just start by really simple movement. So I'm going to have you reach the arms over the head. Feel like you're actually holding up the ceiling. So it's actually more than just arms are up. The arms are actually active, and notice how that lifts up from the ribs, like your sit bones anchor down and your ribs lift up. And just take another breath here. Really fill up into your lower abdomen, and then just take your left hand over to your right knee, and then just look over your right shoulder. So we're just coming into a twist. So I'm going to look towards you to talk so it can capture my voice, but you look over your right shoulder. And as you're doing that, like, let the right shoulder really draw back in space so that your hips are facing towards your screen and your shoulders would be at 90 degrees from that angle. And that's really what defines a twist of the spine. And you might not go as far as that. It might just feel like you're looking maybe 45 degrees to the right. But just as you do that, just allow yourself to kind of let the spine release. And as you're breathing here, like, really fill up into your lower abdomen. And when you're exhaling, just gently draw the mid-ribs across to your left. So that'll feel kind of like you're wringing out a towel. So when you inhale, you fill up into the chest, the ribs, your back body. When you exhale, just that gentle wringing of the ribs around towards your left. And that gives you a little bit more activity in terms of exhaling the breath. It also really releases the muscles in our mid-back, because our back body becomes kind of like this wall that holds us in place. And we don't even have to think about it doing that. We've done it for so many years that those muscles in our back get really like tight and strong. So to start to twist them just starts to release all of that tension. So just let the right shoulder draw back, let the left hand to come to your right knee, and then just soften your gaze, look over your right shoulder, breathe a little deeper, like just breathe in a way that you actually feel the breath moving in your body. And then keep your your left hand at your right knee, and then take the right hand up and over like you're reaching towards the left corner. And as you do that, keep your left hand drawing your left shoulder towards your right, and then reach with your right hand for that far corner, and then just drop your your left ear towards your left shoulder, and then feel like your left hand is just drawing your shoulder towards that right wall, and then your right hand is reaching up and over. Anchor your right sit bone, and that'll feel like you get really long through your side body. And that's the first few things that we're going to do, is just really open up the side body, our breathing muscles. Again, muscles that are usually contracted. So stay in that pose. I'm just going to come out of it so you can, so I can describe it a little bit more. These muscles are usually contracted because our arms are usually down. But what we want to do is really open it, extend it, and then breathe into that space. So go ahead and inhale, lift the right arm up and over, back to where you started, facing the screen, and then just circle the shoulders and close your eyes or soften the gaze. Notice the difference between left and right. Like the right side feels maybe lighter, more open, or just easy. Like oftentimes it's not from you're feeling tight to feeling open or loose. Like sometimes you don't know how you're feeling, and then you do a pose and you're like, oh, that's space. And then when you come back to your starting position, you just feel lighter. So we'll do that on the other side. Inhale, lift the arms up. Hold the ceiling up. Use the hands. Push the ceiling upward. And then we'll do the other side. Take your right hand to your left knee. Take your left hand behind you. Look over your left shoulder and then draw your left shoulder back. So if you're looking at the screen right now, you'll see my hips are facing the screen. My shoulders are facing the side, so they're about at a right angle. And then I draw my left shoulder back. So it gives you a little bit more. And if any of that feels too much, just come out of it a little bit. So my torso, the center of my torso would be about 45 degrees away from the screen. And then stay here. And then when you exhale, draw the ribs a little bit to your left. Just like you're taking the mid-torso and just gliding it towards the left as you exhale. And then keep your right hand at your left knee. On your next inhalation, lift the left arm that's behind you and go up and over. Reach towards that right corner, towards the right of the screen, and then just let the right ear, sorry, go ahead, I'm doing the opposite of you. And as you're here, anchor your left sit bone down and then reach out through the fingers. And again, I'm gonna just come out of it, but you stay in it. And just really feel from the left sit bone to the left fingers. Like you're just trying to make as much space as you can. And that's really what we're doing in these yoga poses, is making as much space as we can so that we can live in all of our body, like every cell of our body. And if you're like, oh, I don't need every cell of my body to live in, I ask you to just question that and just be like, you know, what if you're like, oh, I don't need my liver, or I don't need my kidney. And that's what's going on. That's the space that you're opening up over here. Like if any of those organs failed you, like you'd be a mess. Like we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And so just simply making space for you to live is very important work, very deep work. And I often take it for granted, and that's why I show up on the mat. But that's also why I show up for my students, is because what people are doing off the mat is so very, very important. I have friends who are teachers, I have friends who are leaders, I have clients who, you know, do really big things, and everyone needs to be living in every cell of their body. So again, use your right hand at your left knee, draw the right shoulder towards the left side of your mat or to the left of the screen, and then reach the fingers up and over and really let the right ear go heavy. Just release the muscles in the neck, the head. Take another few breaths. Visualize the space between the ribs opening up. Notice your breathing, notice the inflation and expansion, and then just slowly inhale to come up. And then just release so you're facing the screen again. Circle the shoulders, and then just kind of circle the neck in one direction and then the other. Just kind of notice what it feels like to be a little bit more loose. And then I'm gonna come onto the hands and the knees. And I will tell you, there are always options. There are always options. So I'm gonna show you what we call cat-cow, which, you know, is like a Halloween cat, rounding the back, and then inhale, broadening. And think about what we're doing is really like I said, like our back creates this wall, and like any wall, it should be in place, right? But over time, like the muscles get, if you can imagine like the texture of leather, and leather that has, you know, just is not used, or, you know, it's just kind of really tough. And then when we start to move and do these what we call asanas and movements and poses in the body, we're really trying to like move the muscles in a way that gets it to that really soft, supple kind of texture of leather. And so that's what we're doing when we're doing cat-cow. So the thing is, I'm going to face the camera for now. But think about your wrists are right over right under your shoulders, and broaden the collarbones and lift the sit bones. So that's that arching kind of opening of the front side of the body. And then cat's pose is like a Halloween cat where you're rounding the spine. So I'm going to go to the side view again so you can see this. So it's rounding the spine. And then inhale and broaden the collarbones and lift the sit bones. So if for whatever reason you don't have space, or you're like, I don't want to get on my hands and knees or whatever, you can do that seated. So have your hands around your kneecaps, and then inhale, broaden the collarbones, and then exhale, round, draw the navel towards the wall behind you, draw the ribs back, and then inhale, coming up. And just do that with your breathing. Exhale and round, so it helps to compress the lungs. And then inhale and broaden the collarbones. Keep your hands at your knees, and then exhale and round. And then you can be doing that on your hands and knees. You can be doing that seated. Okay, so one more thing. We're going to come into downward facing dog. Very common pose, and I'm going to give you some options. So here, fingers are spread wide. You can do this on the floor. You can do this on a yoga mat. You can do it on the carpet. But just notice that if you're on a carpet or on the floor, you kind of want to like use your hands to just hold on and notice if you're slipping or sliding. And I'm going to give you some options. So downward facing dog, hips are high and ears are about in line with your arms. Go ahead and stay in the pose. I'm going to talk you through it. Let your hips go high. So imagine an inverted V, and you want to really create that lift up through the sit bones, and your hands are grounded. Heels are heavy, but at first you might just want to have the heels lifted or lower one heel at a time. Some people call that like walking the dog, like you're walking out the legs, but just like let the back body start to stretch out. And here I mean the back and the legs. So go ahead and come back down. I'm going to actually, when I edit this, I'm going to put in a photo. You can do this with a chair. You can have your hands at the back of the chair. Make sure the chair is up against a wall, and just kind of come into that, and you'll come into that inverted V, and you get a really similar stretch. If you could imagine a ballet bar and you're holding onto the bar, your feet are towards the bar, maybe even under the bar, and then you make that V shape, and it would be sideways where your sit bones are aiming back. It's a really nice stretch for your back body. And like I said, like our back body is where we don't even see it, right? So a lot of times we notice and we're aware of what we see, but yoga, as I'll share with you, and I always share in my classes, that it's this developing this ability to feel and to know what we don't see. And it's somewhat intuitive, but it's also just like really tuning in to feeling what we don't see. And you have to really feel like, what do the back of our legs feel like when we're stretching? What does our back body feel like when we're stretching? It feels really good to open up that space, because we're usually just contracted and weight bearing on our back body. And so just bringing some awareness to that. On a deeper level, it's really like seeing that part of us that we don't see, you know, like our blind spots. And the more aware we are of that, the more proficient we are at kind of knowing what are the things that we tend to do without consciously thinking we're going to do them, and they might actually be either not benefiting ourselves or hurting others. And that's what I'm saying, like this yoga that I am about, and I've been practicing and teaching for a lot of years, is really not about the physical. If you come to my classes, I really weave in like this way of living yoga that is the reason why I started teaching yoga, because it affects every minute of my life, whether I'm in an asana or not. Anyways, just stay tuned for that, because I really weave it into my classes. I'm going to stop for now. So you have the twisting, breathing, cat cow and down dog to practice, and that's about 20 minutes. So really thank you for showing up and just trying to move in this time of uncertainty, and for some people maybe some overwhelm or fear, and really, like, if you can be present to what you need to do and how you can do that in creative ways that don't put yourself or others at risk, it's so doable. And as I said in my email, if you're feeling lonely or isolated or kind of, I don't know what to do in this time of fear, like, just reach out to me, call me, message me, email me, lourdes@lourdesparedes.com, because I really want to be there for people as a friend, as a yoga teacher, even though I'm really curating the places where I tend to go out, and really want to be here because I think this time is a time of possibility. Thank you.